Just this week, I went skiing in Santa Fe, and then the next day I went running in Albuquerque, and it was 60 degrees.
So why are so many people choosing Albuquerque instead of other major metro areas? Well, in this video, we're going to break down the major driving economic factors that are causing people to relocate here. In addition to that, we're going to discuss Albuquerque's housing market, and I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to do in order to get your offer accepted in this seller's market. Stay tuned. It's all about you, ABQ. Hey, it's Skip at Sold by Skip, and we post videos like this every week. So if it's your first time to the channel and you want to learn everything about Albuquerque, including what it's like to live here, work here, and play here, then be sure to tap that subscribe button and ring the little bell. That way you're notified every time we post a new video. Now, again, we've been helping people from all over the US buy and sell homes here in Albuquerque, and we look forward to connecting with you too. So today we're joined by Matthew Binder. He's got a degree in economics, political science. He's a local celebrity in the fact that he's a musician, a painter, an author. He's got his hand in so many different pies, including the film industry, television industry. So he's a wealth of information and always just a fun guest to have on the show. So please welcome Matthew Binder. Matt, thanks for showing up today.
Hey, Skip, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we go back a long way. In fact, you were a guest on the radio show when we had the radio show. We've also done some TV appearances on local media as well, just kind of talking about the housing market and kind of what to expect when you're buying a home. So to tease to the end of the show, stay tuned to the end of the show. As we are in a seller's market here in Albuquerque, we're going to go over the top 3 ways that you can get your offer accepted when you're trying to buy a home in a seller's market. But first and foremost, Matt, you got an extensive background. So talk a little bit about your background in economics, going to school in Colorado, political science, and just kind of why I always put my trust in you to get the the straight answers as far as what's going on in Albuquerque's economic market.
Sure. My background, like you said, degrees in economics and a graduate degree in political science. You and I have been, both of us spent, our early adulthood post-college in California. But now that we're getting older, and we always talked about what a great place Albuquerque is, in terms of the weather's great, the outdoors are great, like if you're into skiing or mountain biking or rock climbing or hiking.
To speak to your point, is Albuquerque's full of so many outdoor activities. In fact, I'll post a link up here to one of the videos of like the top 5 things to do in Albuquerque, where to go skiing. In fact, the last video we did, we took a tour of the entire Sandia Mountains. And so just to speak to that, yeah, there's so much to do. And growing up here was always fun, but you move away for a little bit, whether you're playing school, we always end up back in Albuquerque because I think just because the affordability index, the fact that our neighboring cities, right? Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, those cities have exploded, right? So is there room for Albuquerque to grow? So I guess a lot of viewers that watch the show always ask, like, why, we're considering going to either, Albuquerque or Denver or Dallas, but talk a little bit about what do you see in Albuquerque as the short-term, long-term benefits of why our city is going to be growing?
Yeah, so we were talking about for so many years, you and I would always talk about like, why isn't Albuquerque the place that's popping off? Because it does have all these great benefits like the weather and the sports and everything. And I think really now it's finally becoming like, this is sort of good. Albuquerque is becoming like the place. It is a lot cheaper currently than like a Denver or a Phoenix. I was doing like a cost of living calculator. And I was looking at like $100,000 in Albuquerque will give you the same standard of living as $147,000 in Denver or $115,000 in Phoenix. And I think for a long time, New Mexico sort of just failed to attract a lot of business to come here. I think Phoenix grew exponentially compared to Albuquerque. I was looking at some statistics. Basically 50 years ago, Albuquerque and Phoenix were the same city, same population. The economy was the same size, but because of Arizona's like proximity to California, when California became unaffordable, people just jumped right over the border to Phoenix. And also Phoenix is really hot and it attracted a lot of retirees. And also what Phoenix did was to promote a strong business environment. They had really beneficial tax rates and tax breaks. which New Mexico sort of failed to do for a long time. I think New Mexico's economy was really dependent on government contracts for things like Sandia Labs and Kirtland Air Force Base, and that was sort of the center of the economy. But now New Mexico has sort of taken a page out of Texas's handbook and Arizona's handbook, and really done a lot to court outside business. So now you have like the film industry is really big here. Albuquerque, the last 3 years, has been ranked by Movie Magazine as the #1 city, mid-sized city to live in for large cities to live in for filmmakers, and that's because the number of productions here.
Let's talk more about that, because I know our Albuquerque Economic Development team has done a fantastic job in getting Netflix to commit to. Netflix committed something like over $1 billion to make Albuquerque their production hub for the next foreseeable future. And I know that they bought all the Albuquerque studios. They've employed over 1,600 people to come in, revamp and breathe some more life into the film industry here. So there's been various articles going around. Movie Maker magazine said, Albuquerque, Santa Fe are the top for people in film and TV industry, obviously outside of, LA, New York.
Film industry has really exploded here. I basically started as New Mexico is like a cheap place to shoot because you can make it look like, they've used Albuquerque as a proxy for like the Middle East. So if you were going to do like a movie about Afghanistan, you could make it look like that here. We also have great mountains, and so they shot a ton of Westerns here. And as they started doing more and more production, they started putting more and more infrastructure here in terms of like post-production. So, they would previously they would shoot the movie here and then do all the post-production back in California. But now they've realized, we could just build that infrastructure here. That attracts more jobs. So it's just a cycle where more and more infrastructure comes and more jobs come, and it attracts young and talented people to.
We're seeing a huge influx in buyers. Like I said in the beginning, we help people from all over buy and sell homes here in Albuquerque, and that's because people are fleeing the big cities. And we're also seeing, just to speak to the growth of Netflix, right? There's people that are just coming from California looking for places to live.
And, it's not just Netflix. There's basically the whole, the new economy in general is really making a push towards Albuquerque. Like Facebook has set up a big operation here. Also, traditionally, New Mexico has been a big oil and gas state, but it's transitioning really rapidly to being a renewable energy state. So it's actually probably the most successful solar company in the world. It's a company called Array Technologies, just went public in 2020. They make what's called a single access tracker for really large utility scale projects. And they're based here in Albuquerque, and they build, they're responsible for a ton of jobs. And as the fracking industry sort of contracts here, renewable energy is really, sort of filling that vacuum. And they're building tons of solar projects here. It's just really unbelievable, the growth in terms of solar energy and renewable energy here. So that's really another bright spot in the New Mexico economy.
Again, just touching on what we had discussed. Here it is, Netflix. Can you see? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Netflix, $1 billion in economic development into Albuquerque, just to kind of build. This is exactly what we were just talking about. But also the article in the New York Times, below are the top 10 cities for rent decreases. And here we are as Albuquerque, again, going from 900 to 1,000, right? So we're on the map as far as growth goes. And stay tuned to the end of this video, because I want to talk a little bit about our housing stats, right? January 21, it's no question we're in a seller's market. And we're going to kind of dive into the numbers a little bit later on here in our discussion. One economic indicator that we always look at for driving growth in a city, right? We've seen Dallas, Denver, Phoenix, which are the 3 cities that surround us, right? We've seen them explode exponentially in property value. So one of the first keys that tip off that your city is growing is the increase in rental prices. Now, I know we've seen various articles go around. In fact, the New York Times just was talking about Albuquerque as the rental prices in New York and LA have decreased for the first time in decades. Albuquerque was in the top 10 for rental prices that have gone up almost exponentially. I think the median rental price in Albuquerque was $900 last year, and it's gone up to almost $1,200 this year. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, I think, especially with the pandemic, young people especially, lived in these big cosmopolitan cities, San Francisco, New York, LA, because you had to be there for the job. But now people have realized you don't necessarily need to be in the office every day, and you can work remote. So there's been a big exodus from the big cities, like you said. The rents have decreased the most in San Francisco and New York, as people flee those places. And even if they lost their job, they fled. But even if they kept their job, they weren't going into the office anymore. And now they could just basically work from anywhere. So a lot of these like mid-sized cities are starting to grow because young people still want to be around culture and other people. They don't want to live in like really rural places. But these mid-sized cities are really reaping the benefit of being able to work remote. So yeah, like you were saying, Albuquerque's rental price increase has been 8% over the last year, which I think is number 3 in the country according to the New York Times. So
that's wild. Yeah, that's wild. Well, speaking more, I know you have your finger on the pulse of the artistic culture and what it's like to be just a younger person living in a bigger city. You want to go to music shows or museum openings, or talk about some of the cultural stuff that Albuquerque has to offer that people need to know about, that live in these bigger cities, that are looking for more bang for their buck, but also don't want to miss out on some of the the cultural things that the big cities have to offer.
In the last few years, there's been a big renaissance here of that. Tons of new restaurants, a lot of new craft cocktail bars, and Albuquerque's here huge on the brewery scene. Downtown, there's been new music venues opening up, and obviously COVID slowed that a lot, but I think there's going to be a really huge renaissance once the pandemic is over and people are just dying to get out and socialize. That scene is really going to explode here because there's a lot of new young people who have moved to Albuquerque, and they haven't really had a chance to explore the nightlife and the culture aspect as much because of the pandemic. And so I think that's gonna just be huge coming up real soon.
I know we discussed, your background and kind of what you're doing. Talk a little bit about your artistic process and how has the quarantine benefit you as a creative mind? Being cooped up inside and just kind of being forced to, focus on your craft.
While it hasn't been ideal for probably most people, it's given me an opportunity to basically just put my butt in the chair every day with no distractions. And so finishing up work on a new novel, and then my last novel, The Absolved, I'm currently adapting that for television with a showrunner from NBC Universal. It's for better or worse, I've had a lot of opportunity to get a lot of work done without any distractions. So.
Yeah, it's been a blessing and a curse for a lot of people. But as we said, industry is shifting towards Zoom. I mean, if you got a computer, you've got an office. And reading through one of your blogs, I know that you said that one of your goals in life would be at some point be stable enough to own a dog. So talk a little bit about your transition to becoming a dog owner in this pandemic.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I guess in a bio I wrote for a book a few years ago. I wrote about wanting to have a dog, but now I have a dog. During pandemic, I adopted a rescue here in Albuquerque. And it's been great. It's amazing. So here in Albuquerque, you can actually afford to have a yard, which is tremendous which is tremendous when you have a dog. I think about my apartment in New York where I lived in a third-story walk-up, and there's just no way. There's no way I would bring my
yeah, it's not conducive to being a dog owner, and I can speak to that in the fact that I own 2 little dogs, and that's the break in your day. I mean, aside from the pandemic, it's the only thing you can do is go out and walk your dog for the most part. In fact, we made a video, and I'll post a link to it up here, about the difference between living in California and New Mexico, the cost of living, and exactly. You can actually buy 2 homes for the price of 1 in New Mexico. So go check out this video. It's kind of cool just to give you the breakdown on where we are at in home prices. So nationwide, we're seeing home prices have increased exponentially in major cities. The good news for Albuquerque is still affordable. It's a sleeper town. So if you're considering making a move to, in, or around Albuquerque, reach out and my team will assist you in your whole relocation process, right? What we're finding is in this seller's market, at the end of this video, we're going to chat a little bit about 3 ways you can get your offer accepted in the seller's market. And right now in Albuquerque, I just want to share this with you, the stats, just so you can see kind of what's available, right? So in January this year, we took on about 1,000 new listings, which is down from this time last year, right? And we're seeing the closed sales, right? So there's not enough inventory to buy. Sales prices continue to increase while inventory goes down. So I want to tell you guys about a project that I'm taking on, right? The shortage of inventory nationwide, but also in Albuquerque. I'm taking on a project, I'm letting you guys know what's going on here. I'm actually taking on a project to develop 500 acres of Albuquerque. Okay, we're going to release something like 200 homes at a time, right? This is a project that we're taking on to generate growth, build in new homes and help stabilize our market here in Albuquerque. So I want you guys to follow along. It's going to be exclusive to the YouTube channel, all about Albuquerque. So subscribe and you can follow us from start to finish as we take on turning 500 acres of Albuquerque's west side into residential development. There's going to be some commercial, some multifamily. It's going to be great. We're going to take the entire process from breaking ground to the hiring engineers, moving dirt. We're going to get some great drone shots, the approval process and the whole timeline and it takes. And this is going to be a 10-year project. So you'll be able to follow along from start to finish. So I think it'll be a really good thing also for the city of Albuquerque just to generate some growth and some jobs. So again, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel at this point. So Matt, next up in this section of the show, we always want to do something for our Albuquerque locals and people from out of state. We're looking just for more info, more vibe about Albuquerque. So this section is called This or That. And I'm just going to pepper you with a couple of different things. It's either this or that, depending on what you feel has been your experience living in Albuquerque, okay? So this or that, hiking in the foothills versus running along the Rio Grande for your exercise.
Well, currently I am living in the North Valley. So right now I am running on the river. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. But I'm happy to go hiking in the foothills.
Well, you can't lose either way because, exercising at altitude, there's not much, so you get double the workout.
Well, just this week, I went skiing in Santa Fe, and then the next day I went running in Albuquerque, and it was, 60 degrees. So
yeah, beautiful. All right, this or that when it comes to entertaining guests from out of town. Do you take them to Los Poblanos for a nice cocktail on the patio, or do you prefer El Pinto restaurant's patio?
El Pinto is like the original. That's like the OG for entertaining out of town guests. But Los Poblanos, I think the food is better. That's just me. So I'm going Los Poblanos.
All right. And of course, everybody has to know this or that, red versus green chili.
Yeah, I think green chili is more for out-of-towners and red chili is for locals. So I'm going to go red chili.
Yeah, I'm on team red as well. I've always been a team red guy. Just because I think there's a whole process that goes into making your own red chili at home. You get the family around and you put your garlic cloves or whatever your family recipe is. So I definitely speak to that. Greens for out-of-towners, reds for the locals. Okay, so if you made it this far, we're talking about, no question, we are in a seller's market for real estate. So we're going to go over the top 3 ways that you can get your offer accepted. And the reason I'm doing this segment with you, Matt, is because I know you've been going through the home buying process as well. And in fact, you guys were in a situation where we put an offer in for you on just kind of an investment house. But, we came in strong with the offer, but you were beat out by almost $30,000. How did that feel?
I mean, it didn't feel great.
It's a wild time. So here's what we can do. We're going to go over the top 3 ways that you can modify your offer to make it more appealing to the seller. The first thing is obviously when you're writing a strong offer, just make it as clean as possible. So what do I mean by that? come in above asking price. Number one, if you're thinking that there's any deals available in a market like this, you're sorely mistaken. Matt, in your case, you're up against maybe 10 other buyers looking for, a deal as an investment. You don't want to pay too much, but if you come in too low, you're going to get blown out of the water. The next thing you can do is shorten your contingency periods. Now, what that means is when you submit your offer, you're telling the seller, I promise I'm going to do all of my inspections on the home, get my loan approved, I'm going to kick the tires. Generally, it takes a couple of weeks to get all those things done. But in a seller's market, your timeline is going to be significantly shorter because there's someone behind you in line with a stronger offer who's either coming in with cash, with no inspections, no appraisals. So make your offer above asking price, shorten all your contingency periods, and just know going into it that the seller is in the driver's seat in a seller's market. The last thing that you can do maybe that would help the seller out is offer maybe a free rent back, right? Offer the seller a scenario where you'll allow them to stay in the house after the close of escrow. Because here's what we're finding out in this market. The reason inventory is so low is because, a lot of people, because of the pandemic, have lost their jobs and they're not in a position to buy or rent, or they're scared. So now, if the seller is selling a house, they still have to buy another house or find a replacement property. So that's a huge problem. They maybe are looking for a buyer who's willing to let them sell the house and then stay in that house until they find a replacement. So those are 3 things that you can do to help get your offer approved when you're in a bidding war.
I guess you and me need to get back out there and try and find a new property, since the one that I made an offer on last week slipped through the cracks. That was my fault. I came in a little low. Didn't realize just how low, but it was low enough to...
Hey, you got to lick your wounds. I always tell buyers, expect to write at least 5 offers before you get one accepted in this market. Talk a little bit about what you've got coming up. I know we touched on you had some stuff going on in Hollywood with your new book, your new show. Tell the people watching, where can they find out more information about you and what you've got going on coming up?
So my website is matthewbinder.net. I also have a fun little recording project that I'm doing called Bang Bang Jetaway, and we have some new releases coming up. So you can find that on Spotify or anywhere you listen to music or stream music.
But I'm going to put links to all your websites, your video, your projects, your books, where they can find your books. I know it was a huge hit on Amazon, your most recent book. And again, you've got some new stuff coming up, some new releases. So I'll make sure that our viewers have a way to find you as well.
No, I appreciate it. It's always fun to be on the show with you. And yeah, let's get back out there and find some places. And I'm really excited about your project. We're developing the West Side. That's huge. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Again, all the information will be underneath this video. And again, for a free list of homes priced to sell, I always encourage you, visit soldbyskip.com. And again, reach out if you're thinking about making a move to, in, or around Albuquerque.
Wait! Before you leave, I want to share another video I think you might find informative by clicking up here. And lastly, friends, don't forget to subscribe here by clicking this link to stay up to date with future videos. As always, visit soldbyskip.com for a free list of homes priced to sell. Thanks for watching.